It's all coming up on One Soccer. Yes, it's a doubleheader night here at the network at BMO Field along the Lakeshore in Ontario. Two MLS teams go head-to-head. The other match features two CPL teams. The winners will go on to face each other in the semifinals later this month. Let's get you ready for all the action as the 2023 Canadian Championship continues on One Soccer. Hello, everyone, and welcome inside our One Soccer studio. Andy Petrillo alongside Jordan Wilson and Gareth Wheeler. We are ready for the quarterfinals of the Can Champ, and it is a busy night in the province of Ontario. You have games in Toronto, games in Hamilton. Here's how we got to this quarterfinal stage. Let's show you what went down in that preliminary round, and in particular for tonight's matches, Toronto FC makes its first appearance, earning a bye as last year's finalist. Montreal defeated League One Ontario side Vaughan Azzurri 2-0. Forge took care of business against League One Quebec's FC Laval 3-0, and Atletico Ottawa beat fellow CPL side Halifax Wanderers 3-1. Those other matches are coming your way tomorrow. That's right, doubleheader tonight, double trouble for you over there, because we'll be with you on back-to-back nights.
It's a gift.
Yes, it is. It's the gift that keeps on giving. Let's talk about the Canadian Premier League teams right now. You have Forge first in the standings, Ottawa last in the standings. What's happening with these two teams who met in the CPL final last year?
Watching the CPL final last year and being there with you, Wheels, you're thinking this Ottawa team should be at the top, one of the top teams in the CPL. But they're just not executing their philosophy right now, which is sitting back, countering, playing a defensive structure. Watching the game on the weekend, the goals that were let in, after 5-10 minutes, it was already 2-0. Like, this is a team that is just not executing and not doing the things that they're good at. So I feel like this is a perfect night to change things up. If they can, if it's a more attacking style, getting Forge's face. But what they're doing so far is not working. I will say, though, in the game of football, it's about dusting your shoulders off and starting anew. And this is a perfect night to do that. This is a night for revenge for the CPL final of 2022. But it's also a night of redemption for the past match that you just played against Pacific. So I hope the best for the squad.
I know we'll dive a little bit more into some possible off-season moves and how that could have hurt Atletico Ottawa later on in the show, but they are having a bit of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. So is Toronto FC this season. Let's hear from their head coach, Bob Bradley.
Bob, when you're coming into a knockout competition with just a couple of days to prepare, what are the kind of things you're emphasizing to the team ahead of tonight's match?
First, that it's Montreal, and obviously that means a lot to our fans. And Canadian championships have been an important part of the history of TFC. So we take all of it in the right way. We're excited to play at home, play in front of our fans, and have a really good effort.
You're dealing obviously still with a few absences in the squad. Does that force you to change your approach in any way to tonight's game?
It doesn't change our approach. We are missing some guys, but we continue to have our way of doing things. We prepare every game with an understanding of how the opponent wants to play, but then we have things that we try to do and take advantage of our strengths and go for it.
Is it fair to say, based on the run of results they've had, that this is a different Montreal team you're facing compared to maybe if you played them a few weeks ago?
For sure. You can see that they're playing with more confidence and that they're on a good run of form. So we expect them to be a tough opponent tonight, and we've got to be at our best.
Thank you, Bob. Good luck tonight.
Well, you heard they are still dealing with some injuries. So here's a look at Toronto's starting 11. You have Marc-Anthony Kaye, Kobe Franklin, Richie Laryea giving Canada the necessary 3 Canadian starters, or I should say Toronto FC, the necessary 3 Canadian starters. Jonathan Osorio still recovering from a knee injury. Now, when it comes to Bob Bradley, he's going to be coaching in his 50th match here for Toronto FC, and you could take a look at his record there. And Wheels, I'll come to you with this one right now. I mean, we know that Toronto is having a very inconsistent season. How much is on him for Toronto's struggles?
When you look at those numbers, no doubt that's disappointing. When you hire a coach like Bob Bradley with the resume that he has, you're expecting more. That's why he was put in charge of this team, in order to take them to a different place. Now, within this squad, the talent's undeniable. Some injury issues to start the season. Okay, a lot of teams have injury issues. I think it's multifaceted in terms of where the blame lay. But certainly Bob Bradley isn't immune from it. It simply hasn't been good enough. You watch this team, and we're going to see a series of plays here. In a 4-2 loss against TFC, as well as 2-0 in New England, where the team looked lifeless at times. My bigger problem, Jordan, is they don't look connected as a group. I watch this team week in, week out, and I'm trying to figure out what their identity is supposed to be. Players aren't on the same page. Right there, 2 players jumped, no one stayed back. The communication nowhere near good enough. Marc-Anthony Kaye is on a horrendous run of form right now. He's a Canadian international, heavy touch. Like his touch on the ball, it's like he doesn't know where he wants to take it with his second touch. They go the other way, more miscommunication, the ball to the back of the net. And this is the biggest area of concern for me. They simply do not defend the flanks. Insigne and Bernardeschi, for all they bring from an attacking perspective, add in Sapong or whoever's playing number 9, they don't defend the flanks. So it draws out the fullbacks. The midfielders don't look connected in the middle of the park, and they're too easy to play in and around. From an attacking perspective as well, you've Insigne, who's making $14 million, almost double the next player in Major League Soccer. You bring him to the team when you're trying to rebuild, but you look at the way the team is built, where are the runners? Insigne is not Giovinco. He's a superior passer of the ball. He needs runners. He needs speed. He needs pace. Where's the pace in this team? To me, they're just not playing to the strength of the player. So Bob Bradley hasn't figured out the best way for this team to play. But in the squad composition, Jordan, you have to ask yourself, is this team built in a way where success is sustainable for a group of star players that we're not seeing the best of collectively?
And Wheels, I agree with you. Even that last play with Marc-Anthony Kaye is just simple things in terms of tracking your runner. Which you see in games when you're watching them, they're kind of giving too much respect to their opponent. I think, too, with TFC, the balance is off in terms of a lot of attacking players or onus on, hey, we need to go forward. But nowadays, every team can kind of punish you and hurt you if you don't defend well. If you play with wingers that are high up and ask them not to track back, you see it with PSG. Hey, we want to get Messi, we want to get Neymar, all these guys that want to go play attacking, sexy football. And you put these guys in those positions, you're exploited, and you can easily get exploited in the back.
They played an excellent team last weekend in New England. They have a former MVP in Carlos Hill on the team. But he plays a free role. He goes everywhere. He pulls the strings. The point is, though, in that system, the other players are disciplined in terms of the way that they play. And you have all these luxury items in this team. Do you even have blue-collar players that are content in playing their role, whatever that is, able to dig in and do the dirty work? And I'm not sure the answer is yes right now. And the team, that's about the construction of the team. Bob Bradley's director of soccer, he has something to do with that as well. So all eyes squarely focused on the manager heading into this one tonight.
This team, Toronto, enters with 2 wins, and they had a streak of draws as well. But you look at those 2 games in their last 3 against Philadelphia and New England, and it starts to raise some eyebrows. So while they just have 2 wins on the season, they're taking on a team, CF Montreal, who now has 4 wins on the season. They've won 3 straight in Major League Soccer, 4 straight if you count Can Champ. So the birthday boy, Hernan Losada, has to be feeling pretty good. Let's hear from him.
And is it fair to say that this is a Montreal team with a lot more confidence compared to before the Vaughan game in the previous round of this competition?
Yeah, sure. Results helps a lot. When you win, when you keep the 0 on your own goal, players and the team collectively start to win confidence, and let's hope we can extend that confidence level tonight as well.
Where have you seen the biggest kind of improvement in the team over the past few games?
Well, as a new coaching staff, you want to implement new ideas. It takes always some time, plus the timing of some injuries played a role as well, and now we have a more complete roster ready to fight, a lot more competitivity into the team, and that helps to have the results we have the last couple of weeks.
You're playing against the Toronto team where obviously a couple of names jump off the page in Insigne and Bernardeschi. What does your team need to do well to stop those guys from influencing the game tonight?
They have a massive individual quality, a team to respect. We have to be sharp with the ball and without the ball, and try to keep the focus from the beginning until the end.
Thank you, and good luck tonight.
So here's a look at Montreal starting 11. 5 Canadians getting the start here. We don't see, though, Duke, Wanyama, those 2, from what we understand, still in Montreal resting. Remember, Toronto and Montreal actually do face each other on Saturday as well. And even though a lot of their success in the last 3-4 games, you can say, have come from the youth in particular. Hey, how about Sean Rea, a nice CPL graduate? Let's not forget the old dude Wheels, 31-year-old Romel Kyoto, who comes back into the lineup over the weekend, gets a goal, but he missed a month with injury.
Yeah, 3 weeks. The team won the final 2 games without him in the 11, but returned on the weekend and scored a goal. This is a very young and inexperienced CF Montreal team. He is their one true difference maker. And this is a team. Congratulations, you go out and win 3 straight MLS games, 4 in all competitions, but nothing has been straightforward. I would argue in the 3 MLS games, they've been the weaker side in all 3. In terms of XG, expected goals in Major League Soccer, their number's 9. It's the worst in all of MLS. Their expected goal differential, minus 8.1, last in Major League Soccer. They've rode their luck. I think that they've been able to clean up some of their mistakes at the back. They look much more solid in their formation. Campbell might be in the back 3 and Camacho in the central midfield tonight. And they're very good within that formation, attacking down the flanks. I do, however, think they're limited. If it's not Kyoto providing it moving forward, I'm not sure who it is. He's the most important player in the CF Montreal team for me.
Absolutely. Tried and tested, but also just a guy. When I'm looking at a team or players that I've always liked to play for or with, are just, you know that in the box, in and around the box, they're going to punish teams. They don't need 3 or 4 chances. Kyoto's that guy for CF Montreal, that maybe 1 or 2 chances he might get, he's going to put something away. And I think for the magnitude of this game, you need someone like him playing and being in top form.
See, this is where I don't know how I feel about analytics, Wheels, because there's often times where the analytics look so good for a team, but they're not winning. And then they can look bad, but they are winning. At the end of the day, the 3 points matter.
That's why that will be the reply. But is it sustainable? And for me, they need to be much more accomplished. I think that they need improvements in the summer window. Like, we've been banging on about this. This team went from the second best team in the Eastern Conference in Major League Soccer last season to a bunch of young players. For me, over the last 3 games, have punched a little bit above their weight. You know, good on them. Like, no one's going to take away those points, but I think that there's still a lot more work to do in order for this club to continue to rebuild and get the right players in.
Without question, there needs to be reinforcements in the summer.
Good challenge for both these teams here tonight, because it's also the rivalry that keeps on giving. Anytime a Toronto and Montreal team go head-to-head, we absolutely love it. All right, we're going to sit down with Marc-Anthony Kaye when we return. Obviously, he knows this team needs to turn things around. Toronto wants to turn things around and start seeing a little bit more of those 3 points themselves. And they'd like to get it going in the Canadian Championship as well.
Championship is on one channel, One Soccer.
It looks like we're headed towards
and many people's dreams of owning a home.
What's keeping you up at night?
I'm kind of stressed about my money situation.
Oof, it's stressful to talk about.
Oscar, come here.
Here's your financial stress companion.
She definitely helps.
It's never too late to start.
Good portfolio.
With saving for my first down payment.
Thank you, Canada, for making dreams come true. We're with you all the way.
To play. It's something that's in us from the very beginning, and something we take with us on every step of the journey. When we have no words, it gives us a way to speak. When we are still finding our way in the world, it gives us somewhere to belong. And no matter who we are or where we come from, it gives us the right to dream.
Christine Sinclair, as she scores at her 5th World Cup. Alfonso Davies!
It's time to celebrate the game we love. It's time to play.
One channel for Canada's national teams. One Soccer. It's Toronto versus Montreal. There's a look at Marc-Anthony Kaye, Canadian international, who has never won the Voyageurs Cup. Tonight, he has a chance of getting one step closer to doing that with a win. As we welcome you back inside our One Soccer studio, and for the last few weeks, Marc-Anthony Kaye has been leaned upon heavily, with both Michael Bradley and Jonathan Osorio being out with injury. He knows the results for Toronto FC need to be better, and perhaps tonight's match will help kickstart that.
Going into a game like this, it really gives us the opportunity to hopefully springboard ourselves back into MLS and, you know, really create some sort of momentum in a very not stressful, but there's a lot of games in May, right? And you know, every win is going to be just as important as going out there and playing the game in general. I think that we need to be able to really build on something, and you know, the game against Montreal is a real opportunity to do so. Obviously, I know how important it is to the club and the fans, these games against Montreal. But yeah, definitely, I think whenever you see the schedule, you know, you kind of circle those games because you know how much it means to the organization. And then the fact that, you know, we got to play them in a Canadian Championship game and then play them in the league the following 4 days. Yeah, it's kind of cool, but you know, for us, it's just one game at a time. Obviously, we understand the level of intensity that a game like this brings, but we just want to make sure we don't change anything for them in a sense because of obviously the emotional level that gets brought to the game. I think we have moments. Me, I pride myself on being humble, and I think we have great pieces, great ideas, coaching staff, players, but in terms of getting to back to that level that everyone talks about, or to a new level, you know, you need to start winning more games. You need to be consistent in the performances you're putting out, and you know, like everyone knows, we're not there yet. We've shown moments, and those moments look very bright, and then there's moments that kind of bring us back down to earth a little bit. So that's kind of where we are right now, but you have to push through. Building a good team is never easy. I think that, like I said, it's important to understand how any game could start to help us create momentum to push towards what we want. I started off the season pretty well in terms of goal contributions and really trying to assert myself, you know, on the ball and defensively. I think defensively this year, I understood that, you know, I wanted to raise that level, and, you know, seasons are long. You know, we're about 18 weeks, I think, in to the entire season and preseason included, and, you know, sometimes a little bit of mental fatigue might kick in, or, you know, a little bit of a burnout that us players as professionals have to make sure we can handle and deal with it and get back to the basics and focus on what's gonna, you know, kind of give us create a positive impact so that we can put the negatives aside. So for me, I think, you know, I'm in a spell right now where I've had good games, I've had games that aren't too good, and now I'm just trying to get back to a level of putting good performances together week in, week out. But in terms of playing, getting the minutes, being fit, going 90 minutes, you know, I'm proud of myself for that, because that's something that I haven't had in a while, you know, dated back to when I came to the club. But yeah, there's definitely a lot out there I want to improve, and I have to not try and attack everything at once and just take it game by game and training session by training session. But I understand where I am, and there's still a lot more to go. Yeah.
Reminder, it is a doubleheader, so also coming up tonight at 7 p.m. ET, you have Forge hosting Atletico Ottawa. And Forge, as we know, sitting top of the table. They have 2 wins, 2 draws. Atletico Ottawa has 2 draws, 2 losses, still searching for their first win of the season. And when it comes to Forge, What is it about this team where year in, year out, they are competitive? They are fighting. They're in the CPL final. They're doing stuff in CONCACAF League that then leads to CONCACAF Champions League. What is it about them that's making them so successful?
Speaking to Forge players consistently, they might bicker between each other, but they say, look, Bobby has them all humble and has them motivated year in and year out. And they're just like, that Forge team, they know that there's so many ways or so many people that can hurt you. With Bobby and Forge, I'm looking at this team as well. Year in, year out, he gets the best players from Quebec, Chouanière, Sissoko, Ruben Pasillas, best young players, Hodrapur, Noah Jensen you're seeing now. And I would say probably one of the most decorated foreigners in the league, and Anthony Johnson. These are guys that are now big players in the league, but it's just the unit that they have. Week in and week out, they have quality, they can mix up their squad, and you know that honestly, in their own right, they're a dynasty.
Not to mention the MLS pedigree of Jordan Hamilton, Kyle Becker, Ashton Morgan in this team. They're deep, there's rotation. They basically brought back the core without Daniel Kurtzen, who barely played last season. They brought him back for this season. Andy, I actually think that this might be the best version of Forge that we've seen thus far. Of course, it's early in the season, a lot can happen, but on paper, why can't this team go on and win this competition? Because, look, it's one thing being in a final when you're put in the final against Toronto FC. They are ripe. The path is there for a deep run. All roads potentially go through Hamilton. If they win this game tonight against Atletico Ottawa, the winner of TFC Montreal will have to go to Hamilton. It's a pain in the ass to play there against a very good, motivated team. Why not? They're very good. It's hard to find a flaw in this group, really.
I'm just saying I put them on my hot seat to entertain all year round, and look at that, they're sitting top of the standings. But I'm hearing here great scouting and also great leadership, because Bobby Smirniotis sets the parameters, and you know basically your role on this team. When it comes to Atletico Ottawa, let's get into that because we alluded to it at the top of the show. Perhaps maybe this is an off season that could be affecting the current season.
It was alluded to the fact that this team was going to revolutionize, play a little bit more attacking football, and we're going to see a little bit of a different version. I think they've tried that in terms of the way that they play, Acosta moving up into the midfield. I'm just not sure if they have the horses right now. I think that they might need to dig into a little bit more into their recruitment pipeline. Replacing Balou Tabla, not easy. They don't have a player like him in this team. And Ollie Bassett was the best player in the Canadian Premier League last season, but I think he's missing his running mate, Sissoko in midfield. An understated loss. I don't think anyone's made enough about how good he was in the midfield for this group, stabilizing this team. So I think there's more questions than answers right now. Look, they gave up 4 on the weekend. I think they forced things a little bit. But really, I think that most of their worry will be what lies in attack and how they can find some success moving forward in the attack.
So you can find Forge Atletico Ottawa. That will also be on the OneSoccer app. We're also getting ready for Toronto FC hosting CF Montreal. It's the quarterfinal stage here of the 2023 Canadian Championship. The fans in attendance getting ready. That's a side profile. Is that D-Ro?
That's D-Ro.
Is that Mr. Dwayne De Rosario in the
like
house?
Andy when she's at BMO, signing autographs.
That's basically my life right there.
The Canadian Championship on OneSoccer is brought to you by CIBC.
It looks like we're headed towards
And many people's dreams of owning a home.
What's keeping you up at night?
I'm kind of stressed about my money situation.
Oh, it's stressful to talk about.
Oscar, come here.
Here's your financial stress companion.
She definitely helps. It's never too late to start.
Good portfolio.
With saving for my first down payment.
CPL is on one channel, OneSoccer.
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing. Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
At Toyota, Our lineup of electrified vehicles is always growing. We're evolving the ways we move so that every Canadian has a choice towards a more sustainable future. One that includes the all-new, all-electric Toyota VZ4X. Because every electrified vehicle we build at Toyota brings us all closer to a better future.
One channel for CONCACAF Champions League. One Soccer.
Well, going to break there, we saw Dwayne De Rosario. There's a great story that just came out, rehashing his days as a breakdancer. His nickname was Timex, and he used to breakdance in the Toronto subway. So the boy didn't just have moves on the soccer pitch, he just had moves on the dance floor. I don't know what I'm doing, but that's not a move. Timex was his nickname. As we welcome you back in.
Late Venice over there. Wow.
Toronto, Montreal. If Montreal wins tonight, Wheels, it's because they did this.
They do attack the flanks of Toronto FC. This is where they can expose weakness because the attackers simply don't want to defend these areas. Aaron Herrera is on the bench tonight for CF Montreal. He's been a catalyst. I think he's been excellent. And in this 3-4-2-1 formation, they push the fullbacks forward. They like to run underneath, a little bit inverted. Let's see if Insigne and Bernardeschi are able to track back. Let's see if they get the proper rotations in central midfield, because if not, this is Montreal's best way forward through Broguillard and Lapalainen.
All right, if Toronto FC wins tonight, it's because they did this.
They cannot, I repeat, cannot gamble within their defensive structure. What I mean by that is, hey, if we're going to press right now, everyone's pressing. If we're going to sit back, we need to sit back for a moment. I also think it's important for Toronto FC tonight to keep the ball ticking. We've seen some clips, Wheels, you went over it very eloquently, of how they lost the ball so many times. I think tonight it's about out-possessing Montreal and just making the ball tick and making it move.
How about on defense? You've got the big boy Mabika at 6'6", 6'7".
Yeah.
Came into the game as a substitute against New England, and he can cover a lot of space.
Matt Hedges is a big loss.
Yeah.
We're not quite sure what his status is. He came out for warm-up on Saturday, didn't end up playing. They lost Shane O'Neill through injury. Without Hedges this year, they played 3 games, conceded 8 goals.
Yeah, that's definitely left a big hole. All right, Adam Jenkins, Jimmy Brennan, they will be calling the Toronto FC CF Montreal match. The other game, which is also on the One Soccer app, that is Forge FC hosting Atletico Ottawa. Nigel Reed, Terry Dunfield, have your call there. Enjoy the first half, everyone. We will see you halftime here. It's the Can Champ on One Soccer.
Championship is on one channel, One Soccer.
The Canadian Championship on One Soccer is brought to you by Toyota.
At Toyota, our lineup of electrified vehicles is always growing. We're evolving the ways we move so that every Canadian has a choice towards a more sustainable future. One that includes the all-new, all-electric Toyota VZ4X. Because every electrified vehicle we build at Toyota brings us all closer to a better future.
Life's better with extra space. Space for family. Space for memories. Space for you. Try 4 weeks free. Access Storage, proud partner of Canada Soccer and the Canadian Championship.
Gatorade, with electrolytes to help replenish what's lost in sweat, carbs to help fuel your working muscles, and fluids to help you hydrate. Scientifically formulated so you never stop competing. Rehydrate, replenish, refuel. Gatorade.
Thank you, Canada, for making dreams come true. We're with you all the way.
The Canadian Championship on One Soccer is brought to you by Allstate. One channel for Canada's national teams. One Soccer.
Greetings from Steeltown on the western shores of Lake Ontario, where the Battle of the North continues. Nigel Reid in the booth alongside former Canadian international Terry Dunfield as Forge FC come home to Hamilton to host Atletico Ottawa in the quarter-finals of the Canadian Championship. It's a one-and-done format. It has to be settled tonight, and a big, big prize for the winners, a date with Toronto FC or CF Montreal awaits in the semi-finals. The weather is favourable at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, sunny around 17 Celsius at kick-off. Lineups and kick-off just ahead in Hamilton.
Veuillez maintenant vous lever pour l'hymne national du Canada.
And now, please rise for the national anthem of Canada.
It's the first meeting between Forge and Atletico Ottawa since the conclusion of the 2022 CPL Championship season. Forge won that by 2-0, but last time they met at Tim Hortons Field, it was Ottawa's one and only victory over the Hammers. Philip Dujic from Toronto is our